Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Sideline Shenanigans podcast today with Jacob Maggard in.
Colin Richardson.
And welcome back to some more NFL weekly talk. Obviously, if you are watching this on Wednesday when this is being posted, check out the video that came out the day before. That's going to be our way too early mock draft 2.0. It is now up on the channel, so if you guys haven't watched that yet, tune into that. You can kind of see the idea that we're having for each team, the college players that we think will be first round picks. Obviously, we have the two quarterbacks that are, everybody knows them. It's Mendoza, it's Ty Simpson, and you'll see where we have those guys going early in that draft. So check that out on the channel. Of course, stay tuned to my college football content, but you're obviously here for the NFL. So if you enjoy it, please like, subscribe, comment. It helps a ton getting the channel out there. And we'll go ahead and dive into this Thursday Night Football on Prime. Patriots taking on the Jets in what actually ended up being a pretty decent game because the Jets were able to kind of hang around and at least make it a fun contest for a little bit. Jets take the early lead, hold it going into the second quarter, but you see the Patriots are just a better football team from second to fourth quarter. Drake May is incredible. We took a look at the MVP odds, and it's Matthew Stafford and Drake May, and then nobody else really in the conversation. So those two guys are kind of putting themselves on top of the MVP conversation, and it makes sense. I mean, May goes 25 for 34, 281 yards and a touchdown. Diggs was really, really good again, 9 for 105. Finally stepped away from throwing the ball to Mac Hollins a million times. And Mac Hollins still actually had a pretty decent day, but they were able to find everybody on the offense because the Jets defense, especially after trading away their two best players probably on the defensive side of the ball, not a great day overall. Justin Fields, you can see it there. Throws for barely over 100 yards, rushes for 67 and a touchdown, though, has the best rushing day out of any Jet. And Brees Hall didn't really have the day he wanted. But the big story here is the breakout games we've been seeing from TreVeyon Henderson as of late. Really, really great performances from him. And it kind of just seems like you should have been giving the guy the ball all year. He's clearly one of the best young running backs in football. I mean, I think I was saying that when he come into the league that, man, they got a great pick there with a guy that can catch passes at a high level and run the ball well. Did at Ohio State. He's continued to do it in the NFL. Colin, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, we saw also now that Tyrod is going to be the starter for the Jets. So I think Justin Fields, the turnovers have not been the issue with him. It's just been he's been playing way too conservative. I kind of saw it last year in Pittsburgh. He was kind of had the same stat line where he would do just enough to win the Steelers game, but they had a really good defense compared to what the Jets are putting out on the field. Justin Fields too conservative. 7 touchdowns, 1 interception is doesn't look like a bad stat line, but whenever you're 10 games into the
Yeah.
season, it's not ideal.
No. Yeah.
Uh, he does add a little bit of value on the ground, but I just don't think it's worth it. They need to start pushing the ball down the field. They just like you saw in the Denver game that was overseas, he had like 45 passing yards the whole game, which is just you can't do that as a starter in the NFL. And then on the other side with Drake May, he's like you said, one of the top two for MVP, him and Matthew Stafford. I personally, I think it should go to Drake May, but I am a little biased. I do like Drake May. He's been great for him this year. Didn't really come out of nowhere, but because he looked pretty good last year, but I don't think anyone really expected him to be this good this year and this early into his career. So really good things there for the Patriots. And then you see Stephon Diggs, 9 catches, 105 yards. And then, like you said, Mac Hollins for the third game in a row has had a really good game, kind of coming out of nowhere for the Patriots. And then Brees Hall, he's back to back kind of down games for him since the trade deadline. So it's not really a concern for the Jets because he's a really good running back, but maybe a little bit of a lack of motivation to keep playing for this Jets team that's 2-8 and traded away some pieces at the deadline. Like I said, they're going to move on to Tyrod, which I don't really think it is going to win them many games at this point in Tyrod's career, but I guess we'll see how that goes for him.
And truthfully, you could say the move to bring in Tyrod might just be the confirming the tank, hoping that Fields doesn't have one of those breakout games where he can, he has games. I think he threw for like well over 250 yards against the Bengals, which it is the Bengals of all
Yeah.
teams, and their defense is just abysmal. It's one of the worst you'll ever watch. So I think they're just trying to avoid that happening. And Tyrod, they know, is not going to break out and have some incredible game at 35 years old or 36, however old he is now. So that's the move they're making just to kind of tank it the rest of the way, I feel like. But also maybe just to keep a guy like Garrett Wilson happy. He's going to get the ball a lot more when Tyrod's in there because Tyrod's going to throw the ball a lot. And Justin Fields just won't do it. He won't throw the ball up and down the field because of, like you said, his conservative play of just trying to keep the ball in their possession. Last but not least, I was heavily invested in Drake May going into the preseason when it comes to fantasy football. I drafted him in 4 out of the 5 leagues I play in, and he's been incredible. So I did it last year with Kyler Murray. I sold out. That's just kind of a strategy I have where I play in so many leagues. I like to have a consistent guy at quarterback, especially if I can get him later in the drafts. And so I guess for a fantasy strategy, I will say if you nail the pick, it is phenomenal. If you miss the pick, it will really tank you. That's why I said 4 out of 5 because the other one I went the other way. I think I had Dak Prescott, so that's actually been really good for me as well. But Drake May has been incredible all season long. Like you said, he's my fantasy football MVP. I think he has a chance to win the NFL MVP. We'll roll on into the Sunday day slate here with the Washington Commanders taking on the Dolphins in one of the worst games we'll probably see all year. I am sorry, Spain, that's what they sent over there for you guys to watch. These two teams are not very good. Tua also had another stinker of a game. I mean, he didn't play horrible by any means, but like he's not doing anything to help you win a game. And they do get it done because Devon Achane runs for over 120 yards or right at it. Mariota throws for 213 and a touchdown. Pretty solid day from him. Debo finally bounces back and has a good game. Over 20 fantasy points if you think about that. You play any fantasy football at all, you would know he's was valuable at the beginning of the year and hasn't really been that lately. This is two really bad teams, truthfully, especially after the injury to Jaden Daniels, and the Dolphins just kind of find a way to beat this really bad Commanders defense. I think there's a lot of question marks for these two teams. I think they both probably should just lose out if they can. The Dolphins, I think, a little bit more of a chance that they keep trying to win games because they're concerned maybe they get their head coach fired and Tua might be on the last leg of his career with the Dolphins. He has no money tied in, guaranteed at the end of the season, so they can cut him and he'd be gone. They wouldn't have to worry about his contract if they didn't want to. Good for him. He made his money in the league if it is his final year. And I think there's some real concerns that he probably should just hang it up because of the serious concussion injuries that he's had. Overall, again, these two teams are going to be picking pretty high in the NFL draft next year. So if you want to watch the mock draft, you'll see us picking some guys for these two teams. Maybe get you a little bit more excited for the future, but the present doesn't look all that great. Colin, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, like you said, not a very good game at all. The Dolphins actually had a chance to win in regulation, but they chose to go for it on fourth down, fourth and goal, with just a couple minutes left. I don't know why they didn't trust their defense. They had been playing good all game, but they chose to go for it, didn't get it, and then goes to overtime, and they do eventually get the win. So I guess it worked out for them in the end, but. Really, the only fun thing to watch about this game was Devon Achane. He's been
Yeah.
really good for the Dolphins all year. They play him at wide receiver some, or like a little slot receiver, and then he's in the backfield, obviously with 21 carries. He's just a really good player, really good in fantasy as well because of all the catches.
Yep.
But besides that, really just a not a fun game to watch. And then, like you mentioned with Tua, with the injuries in the press conference, he was asked where's one place he would like to play in Europe, and his first answer was Hawaii, which is obviously not in Europe. And then his second answer was Israel, which I'm not sure is the safest place to play right now. But
Uh,
anyways, yeah, that's about sums up that game.
yeah, and that sums up Tua Tagovailoa right now as well. That was an interesting one. And again, I feel bad for anyone that was in attendance at that one. It's not the best teams to go watch. I think, truthfully, before the season started, this might have even been like a ploy from the NFL because why were you sending the Dolphins over there in the first place with how much struggle they had last season with the Tua injury and the Commanders? Yes, they had an awesome year, but there was plenty of signs pointing towards that defense falling apart due to age. So I feel like you could have just scheduled a better game for them if you were trying to expand the game to Spain. Maybe they will not return to Madrid. Moving on to this next one here, we get an overtime thriller from the Panthers, a playoff team, and the Falcons. I think we finally have our read. It is they're not very good, and it just took us a long time to get the read on that team. The Panthers, Bryce Young. What a performance. This is the guy that they needed the last few weeks when they were having to start Andy Dalton. He throws for 448 yards, 3 touchdowns, looks incredible the entire game, and obviously he brings extreme upside with his rushing ability, something that you've seen a little bit in the NFL with him. He's a little guy, he's a small dude, and so he takes a risk every time he runs to get hit by somebody that's a lot bigger than him. But he has heart, man, and I will give him the props for that. He's stuck around in the league. He's not let it overwhelm him when he's had his bad games. I mean, he got benched last year and come back and play great at the end of the season. So if this is the way you get Bryce Young performing for you, you are potentially a playoff team in the NFC. You can fight for that last wild card spot potentially. Tedero McMillan is phenomenal. I was on him from day one going into that draft that I thought he was the best receiver by far. The performance he's putting on the field shows it, man. 8 catches, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's done it with Bryce Young. He's done it with Andy Dalton. I mean, if he's doing it with both those guys, and again, Bryce Young had his early season struggles, and Dalton was not good really any of the games, it shows you how good Tataroa is as a player. For the Falcons, bad news. Michael Penix is probably going to be done for the season on the IR, so that is a really big loss because you wanted to develop him the rest of the way. And even if you're losing a bunch of games, you can at least develop your quarterback. You don't have your first round pick. So losing does nothing for you. You get no benefit from dropping and tanking. So they really don't want to lose. They want to play and try to win games. And unfortunately, that would be the worst case scenario right now because you don't have your quarterback. So I don't know what they're going to do. Bijan's obviously awesome, 23 for 104, 2 touchdowns, catches a ton of passes out of the backfield and makes plays there. But this team is just not very good. And the Panthers, their offense looks a lot better, but man, you can't give up 27 points to an injured football team in the Falcons. We'll see what the Panthers do the rest of the year, and the Falcons, their season's pretty much over. Your thoughts here?
Yeah, really unfortunate injury for the Falcons with Penix going down. At this point, I mean, at least they have Kirk Cousins, so it's not like they have the worst backup quarterback in the world. He was starting for him most of the year last year, so I guess he knows the system well. And then you've got Bijan, so they could still pull out a few games. So I don't think their pick is going to be top five. It might be top 10.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just really unfortunate for the Falcons. I think Penix is going to be a pretty decent quarterback once he develops, but like I said, this year is just not going to be the year. And then he was set in last year, so he'll already be going into his third year. Uh, so hopefully he's able to turn it around next year and get the Falcons winning again. And then for the Panthers, like you said, Bryce Young, crazy performance, 448 yards and 3 touchdowns out of nowhere. Everyone's ready to write him off, and then here he comes. It was the same way last year. After they benched him, he comes back and just goes off. So I don't know. Maybe Bryce Young's good at the last part of the year. So hopefully 6-5 now. If he can keep playing like this, they might make the playoffs for the first time in a really long time. And then, like you also mentioned with Tedero McMillan, he's been really good for him. Bryce had his struggles, and so did Andy Dalton, and he's still putting up numbers. So that's a really good sign for the Panthers that they've got a good receiver and a young one and a rookie. So he'll be there for a while. But besides that, the Panthers defense, I don't know. That is my biggest concern with them at the moment because they did give up 27 points to the Falcons, who are not that great of an offense. But so that could be a concern moving forward. But I guess we'll see how the Panthers do moving forward.
Yeah, yeah, it's the big question mark with them is just, is this truthfully a playoff team? I don't know. To me, I would have said definitely not before the season started, but when you're sitting at 6-5, you're in there. You have a chance, and so we'll see if they can make those runs down the stretch. Uh, Moving on to our next one here, and a battle of two really good teams that goes the Bills' way with a very, very high scoring second, third, and fourth quarter. They were able to finish it off with a ton of points. 44-32 final. Josh Allen has an MVP level day. He rushes for two, throws for three. Unbelievable. 5 touchdowns from him, 317 passing yards. He had 317 yards on 19 completions. So getting the ball up and down the field really quickly and just completing big plays. They go to an interesting receiver in Shavers there, 4 for 90 and a touchdown. That's what you're working with when you're Josh Allen. You don't really have a superstar. You go to whoever, and they found Khalil Shakir a bunch last year and kind of turned him into a starting level slot receiver. He's faced his own injuries this year. Keon Coleman has not been what they wanted him to be when they drafted him. They had Matt Collins, who we've talked about with success with the Patriots, but just wasn't doing it there. Josh Allen finds a way to win games, and he finds a way to score a ton of points. So you got to give him props for that. That's why he's also in that top five of the MVP race. On the other side for the Buccaneers, yeah, I wish they were healthy. I wish they had their receiver core. I wish they had Godwin and Mike Evans running out there with Emeka every week. It would be unbelievable and really hard to stop. But for now, it's just Emeka and it's just K. Dotton. And superstar running back Sean Tucker comes out of the backfield, goes for over 100 yards on 19 carries with 2 touchdowns. I think he's easily earned himself some playing time, and the question is, how do you get it? Rashad White is a starting level guy in the NFL, and Bucky Irving, when he returns, is certainly a starting level guy in the NFL. They have three running backs right now that have looked really solid and have made plays, and Tucker did this before, but this was his big breakout game. We'll see what happens. I think Baker and the Bucks got a lot of work to do to become a contender again. They've kind of struggled down the stretch, and with the Bills, man, if they're scoring points like this, I don't know who can beat him. And he's doing it again without a superstar receiver. He's throwing to some nobodies and making it happen. So, Colin, your thoughts here?
Yeah, like you said, Josh Allen was super impressive in this game. The three passing touchdowns, and he's like I said, throwing to really nobody. So that is super impressive from him. I think if he keeps playing like this, it'll be him, Stafford, and May in the MVP conversation. Because I don't know how you can keep him out if he keeps winning games, especially early in the year they hadn't really beat anybody, but now their last two wins against the Chiefs and the Bucks, that's two big wins for them. Although still a really bad loss last week to the Dolphins. I'm not
Yeah.
sure how that happened. Tua kind of came alive out of nowhere there, but
Yeah.
besides that, like I said, Tucker had a really good game for the Bucks. Kind of helped him not feel the pain of missing Bucky Irving as much. And then you kind of feel for Baker. He's still putting up numbers. He doesn't really have the receivers, the injuries right now, but he's still able to put up 32 points. But the defense just really struggled this game, giving up 44 points to the Bills, which, like I said, Josh Allen's a really good quarterback, but I mean, he's not really, he doesn't have the best receivers. So that's kind of concerning for the Bucks playing against a team that has really good receivers. If they can't cover Tyrell Shaver,
Yeah.
then I'm not sure how they're going to cover some of these top tier receivers in the NFL.
Yeah.
So that could be a concern moving forward for the Bucks. But I mean Baker, he's playing good, so I think the Bucks are definitely still a playoff team. And then once they get everyone healthy again, I'm not sure when that'll be, but it seems like we've been saying that for a few weeks now. Once they get everyone healthy, but hopefully everyone will be back soon and they'll get back to their early season winning ways.
Yeah, and maybe Goblin comes back like within the next week or so, but Mike Evans is surely done for the rest of the regular season. I think there were some rumors he can maybe come back at the end of the year, but like without him all year, that just eliminates one of those big weapons on the outside. That's, one of the best, most consistent receivers in the history of football. I mean, he had 11 straight 1,000-yard seasons. So you don't do that without being a superstar. And they are missing that guy heavily. And Emeka is trying to fill the role, but it's just not enough. Moving on to this next one here. Titans taking on the Texans, and I got exactly what I wanted out of this football game. First of all, the Titans get to build a little bit of momentum, play well in the first half, and defensively, offensively, just kind of shut down at times. But they go into the second half. They have what is a winnable game. They go down, they tie it with a really awesome drive from Cam Ward where he delivers one of the best balls I've seen him throw in his NFL career so far down the sideline to Chigakonkwo, which puts them in field goal or in touchdown range inside the 5 yard line. They punch it in and score. And that touchdown, it felt great. It felt like this is the Cam Ward that you need to see moving forward in the future. He has probably one of his better games, throws for nearly 200 yards with literally nobody. I mean, he's leading receiver is Van Jefferson. Me and Colin looked at the statistics. Van Jefferson is about the worst receiver to be leading any football team ever. I mean, this guy has not had over 800 yards in his career, and he had 800 yards one time, and he had 300 or less every other year of his career. So when that's your star receiver and that's who you're going to, I don't know how much you can really expect a quarterback to do. The Titans desperately need two receivers, especially if the Calvin Ridley injury will leak into next season. He did break his fibula, unfortunately, for the Titans. That is going to be a big loss. And again, I don't know how long he's going to be out. A guy that could miss into the next season, just depending on what the rehab looks like there. Rest of the team, Tajay Spears has returned and looked pretty good receiving, but he hasn't done much on the ground. He just isn't a great running back. He's more of that receiving threat, third down guy. We don't have much of a run game at all because our offensive line has struggled a lot this year. Again, Cam brought some of his own rushing upside this game and did a few things on the ground. But again, all things truthfully just happened how they should. We lost the game, and Cam Ward had some moments that look like first overall pick moments. On the other side for the Texans, you can't score more than 16 points against this defense is concerning because the Titans secondary is literally a bunch of free agents that got signed during the season. That is scary. Now, Davis Mills does throw for 274 yards, but he didn't do much. He turned the ball over, and you can't do that. It's kind of scary, like I said. I don't think the Texans are really all that great of a football team, other than on the defensive side of the ball, where they do have some impressive players. Offensively, I think even if they get back CJ Stroud, they're not a playoff team. It'd be interesting to see how the rest of the season goes there. Woody Marks has taken the full carry load as the running back there, but the Titans D line is really good, so we stuffed that. He didn't get going. But Nico, of course, did 9 for 92 and a touchdown. Again, he should have used the corners of the Titans. We literally don't have a single starting corner from the first game of the season to now. We're 10 games in, and we have no starting corners left on this roster. So it is literally a bunch of ragtag practice squad guys trying to cover an all-pro receiver. So that's what it should look like overall. Again, Titans, please keep losing games. You can have the first overall pick and trade it for a king's ransom. Maybe you get you a receiver in the trade, same way that the Bears, got DJ Moore in that Panthers trade when they made the move a few years ago. So overall, there's building blocks, there's pieces to build off of, like Jeff Simmons, like Devondre Sweat, and Cam Ward, but not a lot of positives in the near future. Colin, your thoughts here?
Yeah, for the Texans, I mean, you do beat the Titans, who only have one win on the year, but they do get back to 5-5, and I mean, I think they were 3-5 2 weeks ago. So I guess progress for them, maybe kind of making a push for the playoffs, but I'm not sure how far that'll go with Davis Mills as your quarterback. I mean, he's serviceable, but I think he's shown in the past what he's capable of, and it's just not playoff football. So decent win there for the Texans, but they were playing the Titans, like I said.
Yeah.
Uh, and then for the Titans, like I said, Cam Ward, he showed you exactly what you wanted. He didn't have his like greatest game, but he did have a really good drive at the end of the game, and that'll be huge for him moving forward. Maybe can build some confidence off of that. And then maybe next year he can take his game winning drive, or not game winning, but game tying drive, and put it into a game winning drive for them in the
Yeah.
future. So things to build on there for the Titans. This just isn't the Titans' year. Like I said, they have no corners. Basically, their star, not really a star anymore, but their best wide receiver broke his fibula. So, I mean, everything has just gone wrong for the Titans this year. They're going to probably end up with the number one draft pick, and that'll be huge for them because there will be teams trading up for those top two quarterbacks, like you've said previously. And I think they can get maybe move back and then still get a good player and then some more draft picks. And I think they can really build around Cam Ward, just give him some weapons to throw to, and then build up that offensive line a little bit. And I think this Titans team will be pretty good because they already have some pieces like Jeffrey Simmons. He's going to be an All-Pro this year. So I think, like I said, the Titans, they should be fine moving forward. And then for the Texans, you're 5-5 now, but Davis Mills is your quarterback moving forward. So not sure how that's going to go for them.
Yeah, that's definitely rough to try to make a playoff push with that guy starting at the quarterback position. We'll roll on into this next one here. Bears taking on the Vikings, and what a play to finish that one to get the game-winning field goal. That was a really impressive drive to do it, but Caleb Williams doesn't throw for a touchdown in this game, so an interesting game for him. You see the DeAndre Swift starts getting his carries back. Now Mononga still played well in this game, so it still seems like they're going to have more of a split backfield there and not so much one guy or the other. Of course, Mononga got the chance when Swift went down and played really, really well. So it was good to get him the opportunities in that game so he can become that second win to the Bears. And I think they might not have to worry about running back moving forward. Mononga has looked good in his minutes that he's got. For Williams, again, 16 for 32, 50% completion percentage and 193 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Not the best day ever, not the worst day ever. He didn't win his team the game, but he also didn't lose his team the game. So you can't really say he played bad or great in that one. On the other side, McCarthy still kind of looks like he's got a lot of work to do to be a high level NFL starter. He does go to Justin Jefferson a little bit in this game, gets him going 5 for 61, but you still would love to see Jay Jettas get the ball more than that. And he's got other weapons there, and he just doesn't use them to the highest level yet. He's still working out how to play with these guys. He's not been there long enough to really establish himself as a superstar, and they have the potential to find that in him, but I don't know how he's going to really do that. I just didn't think he was all that great coming out of that draft, to be honest. And I think so far we've kind of seen the lapses with his playing time on the field some. They do have the two running backs in Jones and Mason, but Jones is now the older guy taking over again. We'll see how that backfield plays out the rest of the way as well. So an interesting game, and the Bears get another victory, move to 7-3, and look like they're probably going to end up in the playoffs this year. And they could be a scary team to face with the offensive mind that they have as a head coach. Colin, your thoughts on this one?
Like you said, the offensive mind, head coach, they really did not play that well offensively in this one, but they did do enough to win the game. Not much of a concern though for the Bears because the defense did play really well. Although they did play against what we're going to say J.J. McCarthy here. Uh, he has been turning the ball over a lot since he
Yeah.
has got his starting position back coming off that injury. You kind of expected him to turn the ball over a lot with Carson Wentz, but honestly, it's been more with J.J. McCarthy than with Carson Wentz. He hasn't really built the chemistry with those receivers yet, but I mean, we saw Justin Jefferson go for more than 5 and 61 with Carson Wentz as quarterback, with Sam Darnold as quarterback, and with Kirk Cousins as quarterback. I don't know. I feel like he could use his other weapons as well as Justin Jefferson, but even use Justin Jefferson more than what he is doing. I mean, he's probably the best receiver in the NFL. No, he's one or two, debatable there, but start using him a little more and then stop turning the ball over as much. Maybe like get a balance between him and Justin Fields, and you would be good.
Yeah.
Not as conservative as Fields, and then not as aggressive as McCarthy. You'd have a really good quarterback, but. The Bears are 7-3, and I really did not see that coming this year, this early into Ben Johnson's head coaching career. I think this year has proved how good of a head coach he is, and this performance not as much offensively, but the Bears have been really good offensively this
Yeah.
year, and I think a lot of that has to do with Ben Johnson. I think it was a great hire for the Bears, especially trying to develop Caleb Williams to be their future quarterback. So. Bears, like you said, they're probably going to end up in the playoffs, and then the Vikings. You just want to see McCarthy start playing better.
Yep. And funny enough, what did he come from with the Detroit Lions? A system where he had two running backs, and one of them was a power guy, and the other one was a big time receiving threat. DeAndre Swift has always been a good pass catcher in his career and more of a speed guy on the outside. Kyle Monangai, if you watch him play at Rutgers, he is a lower his shoulder and run through a dude's face. That's just the way he plays. He's got two running backs again, and he uses them really, really well. And it's really fun to watch Ben Johnson just operate an offense in general. This not being his best game ever, but his team still gets it done. Moving on to this next one here, the Packers are able to get it done in a really close one against the Giants. Jordan Love has a pretty good day with the two touchdown passes, but there were some issues early on in that game as well. You see that they really don't establish the run game. That is because of the injury to Josh Jacobs. That is a scary one. He's probably going to miss a good bit of time, potentially. If that's the case, the Packers, they're nowhere near as good. He is a huge part of this offense. They need him to be available and ready to go so they can keep scoring points. They've already lost their star tight end, who was the number one target on this team for the first, I don't know, 7, 8 weeks of the season. And now you're losing your star running back. So there's a lot of question marks here. Jordan Love is going to have to play some really good football. And they need guys like Christian Watson, who just returned from injury, to step back up and become a guy again. They need a Matthew Golden, who they drafted in the draft, to step up and become a wide receiver too. And they have Dobbs, and they have a few other guys. So they're going to need some dudes to step up, and that's going to happen really soon if they want to get this offense rolling and start winning some more football games. Still at 6-3-1, that's not a bad record by any means, but they were expected to be a Super Bowl contender. I don't necessarily think they're there yet, and especially without Tucker Kraft, and now potentially without your guy at running back in Josh Jacobs. So there's some question marks for them. On the other side for the Giants, go with the tank, baby. Jameis Winston comes in there, throws for 200 yards, throws an interception. They lead in every single stat category but lose the game, so that's interesting on the offensive side of the ball. Isaiah Hodgins comes up off the practice squad and is their best receiver. Tyrone Tracy was a good back last year but had some fumbling issues. Goes 19 for almost 90 yards. They have some other guys that are obviously going to work in on this offense, and they're trying to develop those young players on the defensive side of the ball. That pass rush is still really good, and I think that's something to build on for the future. It's going to be really fun to watch this team once they get things built up and established on both sides of the ball. Biggest question mark is, who's your coach? Who's going to be the guy that leads this team into the future? There's some rumors out there that would be really fun, and if they go with one of those guys like a Steve Spagnuolo. That's been rumored. Man, what they could do with Steve Spagnuolo coaching those defensive players. Imagine Steve Spagnuolo with Brian Burns, who's 12 sacks right now or something like that, Abdul Carter, a top three pick in the draft, and Kayvon Thibodeau, and Dexter Lawrence, one of the best defensive tackles in football. He would wreak havoc with that defensive line. So I think they go all in and pursue him and just try to get a top tier defense, maybe the best in the league if they can find pieces around that defensive line. Offensively, again, without Jackson Dart, you don't have much to watch. Truthfully, it's there's no development happening on that side of the ball. Your star players, all the young ones, are all out. Jackson Dart, not on the field. Cam Skattebo, done for the year. Malik Neighbors, done for the year. So you're not watching any developmental pieces on the offense, other than maybe Tyrone Tracy to be your backup running back of the future, but he's only going to be on contract for probably 2 more years. So again, the Giants, they have a lot to build off of with that really, really good defense. And then the Packers, they need to step it up and start winning by a little bit more against especially a team like the Giants. Colin, your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, the Giants, it's been like this all year. They lead in just about every statistical category and just lose the game. It was the same way before they fired Brian Daboll, and then it just continues on after he's fired. I'm not sure what it is with the Giants. It's like a curse. They can't win football games or something. They've been bad for a while. Even with Jackson Dart at your quarterback, he's been putting up numbers, but they have still been losing games, which is just unfortunate for the Giants. But like you said, they have a bunch of pieces to build off of. That defensive line is incredibly good. And then Jackson Dart, I think he's going to be really good.
Yeah.
Cam Skattebo, and then Malik Neighbors as a wide receiver. If they could just build up other parts of the defense and maybe that offensive line a little bit, I think they'll be really good moving forward. And then for the Packers, since the Pittsburgh game, they really have not looked that good. I think a lot of it is due to the Tucker Kraft injury. I mean, he torched Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And the offense, I mean, they put up 27 points here, but they just haven't looked as good as since Tucker Kraft went down. So a little bit of concern there for the Packers, especially with the injury that would be more concerning would be the Josh Jacobs injury, in my opinion. He's been a huge part of their offense. And with him going down, that could get a little bit concerning for the Packers. There's two of your big offensive pieces going down, and then they've been barely squeaking out wins here recently and have a few losses. So we'll just see, I guess, moving forward, how the Packers are able to handle these injuries and how they're able to play against their opponents in the upcoming weeks.
Yeah, and you mentioned getting 27 points on the board. Jameis Winston did give him a gift or two there. It's just the kind of player he is. He's always being very kind around Thanksgiving and Christmas. He loves
He's
to give out
giving.
gifts.
Yeah.
Loves to give out gifts. Going on to this next one here. Bengals taking on the Steelers in a fun divisional matchup. Last time the Bengals got the better of the Steelers, and it was all going to one singular player. Colin, break this one down, and how did they stop Jamar Chase from going off?
Yeah. So since the Bengals game, they've moved Jalen Ramsey to safety, and the defense has looked so much better, especially the secondary. You saw them getting beat on the slant routes and the out routes, and the tight end against the Packers. They were getting beat underneath over and over again. And now with Ramsey at safety, they have the corners playing up a little bit because you have the help over the top. So their short routes are not killing them as bad. They still get beat over the middle of the field quite a bit, which has been a problem all year. And they've kind of been able to shut down the run game a little bit better as well since the first time they played the Bengals and the Packers as well. So the defense has looked a lot better since that Bengals game the first time. A lot of it because of that move with Ramsey to safety. They kind of got into Chase's head a little bit. So him and Ramsey got into it, and then Jamar Chase ended up spitting on Jalen Ramsey. So that's just like, you can't do that. That's nasty. I'm not sure where that started coming out in the NFL. You saw it week one with the player from the Eagles spitting
Yeah,
on
Jalen
Dak
Carter.
Prescott. I don't know where that comes from, but I mean, I was initially mad at Jalen Ramsey for throwing the punch and getting ejected from the game because they're already weak at or kind of thin with injuries at defensive back, and then he gets ejected. So I'm a little bit mad at Ramsey. And then after the game, it comes out that he spits on him. So yeah, like Mike Tomlin said in his press conference today, if you get spit on, I think football comes second. Do whatever comes natural, and that's what Ramsey did. So I can't really blame him for that. But now Jamar Chase is suspended a game and not Ramsey, so that's good for the Steelers that they did not suspend Ramsey. especially considering how well the defense has looked since they moved him to safety. And then offensively, one concern for Pittsburgh is Rodgers. It does not look like he broke his hand, but he still might be out this week. They have the Bears coming up, and it looks like Mason Rudolph is probably going to be the quarterback. Which he honestly he didn't look bad this game. He underthrew Metcalf a few times, but it's not like they were getting that much practice in practice because he's getting second team reps. So I think he'll be fine. He showed last year against, he actually started against the Bengals later in the year, and he had a really good game, honestly. And he kind of led them to the playoffs towards the end of the year last year. So I think, or not last year, 2 years ago. Last year he was with the Titans.
Yeah.
So 2 years ago he kind of led them to the playoffs towards the end of the year. So I think he'll be fine. He knows the system well. He's been in Pittsburgh pretty much his whole career besides last year. Rudolph, I'm not too concerned about it. And then the run game, Jalen Warren went down, but Kenneth Gainwell actually had 2 touchdowns, both receiving, and he ran the ball pretty well. And then one more thing to mention on the offense is Darnell Washington. He had a really good run, or 2 really good runs. One, he jumped over 2 players, which is insane for 6'7", 290 pounds at least. Uh, and then he had another run where he like broke 3 tackles and stiff armed somebody in the ground. He actually won Angry Run this week from NFL Network or whatever. I
Kyle
think it's
Brandt.
probably the first time a tight end's won it. So
Yeah.
good game though for the Steelers overall, and the defense scored 2 touchdowns for him. So
Yeah, he got the scepter for winning that. That's a segment I used to love because Derrick Henry won it about every week.
yeah,
Uh, there is some fun highlights to watch from that game if you guys do want to go back and watch it. That I would recommend watching Darnell Washington moving up the sideline. It doesn't even look normal what he's doing because he's so big. I mean, he's not just 6'7". He's probably 300 pounds. I mean, he is a monster of a human being. He should be playing left tackle probably, and he's just a tight end because he's athletic enough to do it. So really impressive overall, and it really, really impressive win from the Steelers. You score 34 points. Now again, it's the Bengals, I know, but you did it with an injury happening mid-game to your quarterback. You're still able to go out there and work your offense. You mid-game lose your running back, so you're down 2 of your starters, and you still go out and score 34 points. It's extremely impressive no matter who you're playing. It doesn't matter if you're playing the Titans. It would be impressive to score 34 points in an NFL game. They're all NFL players. So overall, great day from the Steelers. They absolutely shut down the Bengals, and that was a healthy Bengals team. They have Chase Brown playing back at a pretty good level. Chase Brown has looked like a starting level running back the last few weeks. And they're able to shut all that down. Flacco, they hold him to near 50% completion percentage, less than 200 yards and a touchdown. And Jamar Chase, like you said, really limited. We spoke about it a little bit on our mock draft too when talking about this game. Is the Bengals, they're going to be picking at the top of the draft. It almost feels like that's about it for them. They made a little push when they got Flacco, and it's not really been their offense's fault most weeks. It's been the defense. This week it was kind of both, and that just shows you how well the Steelers played in this game. Like you said, they need to get Aaron Rodgers back to make a run and be a playoff team and try to win this division because the Ravens are hot on their trail, and we'll talk about them in just a little bit. Overall, really impressive game. Great from Kenneth Gainwell. Impressive receiving back. Always kind of has been that kind of player, and when they need him to step up in a big way, he has. Be interesting to see what happens the rest of the season. Again, Rudolph getting probably a start or two with the injury, but it does sound better for Rodgers than it initially sounded. We'll move on into this next game here. Chargers taking on the Jaguars in one of the most surprising games of the season for me. I think we kind of talked about it. We didn't think the Jaguars were really. I mean, they were a good football team. They're a good team. But we didn't think they were good enough to beat a Chargers team who had looked really great as of late. Their defense has started playing better football. They were 7-3. Their offense is one of the best in the league, and the Jaguars just completely shut them down in every facet of the game. They shut down the offense to 6 points, and they destroyed the defense with 35 points. There was a moment in this game where Trey Lance touched the football field, and if you want to know how bad it was for the Chargers, they benched Herbert. He had less than 100 passing yards. Really impressive performance from the Jags overall. The offense, of course, you look at the stats, they're not extremely impressive. Trevor Lawrence, 153 and a touchdown, doesn't look like he had to do a lot. But then you dive into the statistics even deeper. First of all, love that flag hanging on the wall back there. Bashal Tutin had an awesome game, 15 for 75, basically 1 touchdown. Found the end zone. He has done that a couple times this year. And then Travis Etienne, he finds the end zone as well with 2 touchdowns on the ground and right around the same amount of yards. And then Trevor Lawrence finds the end zone on the ground. Overall, really, really good day from the Jags. Defensively, play awesome football. There really isn't much to write home about when it comes to the Chargers. They get zero performance from their running backs. They desperately need a Marion Hampton to return. And Herbert just did not have a good day. Throws an interception, gets sacked a couple times, and like I said, less than 100 total yards. So I don't know. The Chargers is I'm not super worried if it wasn't a blowout. I would be like, okay, they lost the game to the Jags, a pretty good football team. To lose this bad is concerning. 29 points, and it's your offense and your defense. So I think Harbaugh will have them, practice until they're dead tired all week to get ready for the next game because those issues have to be addressed if they want to be a playoff team. And they've had some nightmarish moments against this Jaguars team over the last few years. Colin, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, really impressive performance from the Jags here. They really got it going on the ground, like 4 touchdowns on the ground, which is really, really impressive. They had 2 running backs. You're showing Bashal Tootin here because he was the leading rusher, but ETN had a really good game, 2 touchdowns and just about as many rushing yards. Lawrence Weaver really didn't have to do too much through the air because of how good they ran the ball. And I mean, if they can run the ball like this every game, which I mean, they can't expect that, but if they can be effective in the ground game to where Lawrence doesn't have to really be a superstar, then I think the Jaguars can be a really good football team. And I think they have 2 really good running backs in Tootin and ETN. We saw it with Tootin at Virginia Tech, so we know how good he can be. And then for the Chargers, it really concerning, not only from the defense, but from the offense. They gave up, I think it was 3 sacks or 4 sacks this game. But uh, I don't know if you watched the Sunday night game whenever they do the player presentations and they show their PFF grade at the bottom of the screen. For the Chargers, it was on their offensive line. It was 30 out of 32 was, I think, their best one. The other guys were ranked last. So the offensive line for the Chargers has been absolutely terrible this year. And I think that's a huge reason why they couldn't get the run game going. And another reason why if you can't get the run game going, then they can just sit on the pass. And just a really bad game for the Chargers. So that's a big concern moving forward as they didn't really do anything at the deadline to address their offensive line. So I guess something they'll wait to do in the draft. I'll go ahead and plug the mock draft so you can see what the Chargers are doing there.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see how the Chargers can bounce back from this performance, and then a really impressive bounce back performance from the Jags after losing to the Texans last week.
Yeah, and quickly I will mention that Chargers offensive line, a big part of that is Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater are done for the season. When you lose probably one of the best starting tackle duos in all of football, and you go into the backups, which aren't very good at all, as you said, ranking out as some of the worst offensive linemen in the league. That is a major, major concern. You have a good football team. You have 3 extremely talented receivers. You have a great tight end. You have a great quarterback. And when Omarion Hampton comes back healthy, which is expected to happen soon, you have a really good running back. That offensive line can it completely ruin your season if you don't figure things out. And I don't really know how you do it. You have to hope for some of the guys they have on the roster just step up in a big way. But Slater and Alt are done for the year, and those are big issues to have moving forward. Moving on to this next one here. Seahawks taking on the Rams in a really impressive game from the Los Angeles Rams. They play some really good football on the defensive side. Great, great performance. You're able to shut down Sam Darnold, who was rolling. I mean, this guy was playing the best football he's played in his career, probably over the last 3 to 4 weeks. And the Rams, they made him see ghosts yet again. 4 interceptions. I mean, you can't win when your quarterback throws 4 interceptions. You cannot win. And they almost did. That shows you how good the Seahawks are. They are a good enough football team to almost win over a Super Bowl contender with 4 interceptions. These are 2 unbelievable football teams. Just down the road, watch out for these 2 teams in the NFC. But again, props to the Rams. Props to Matthew Stafford. He is leading the MVP odds. Great game from Kyron Williams there, 12 for 91 and a touchdown. And they have the superstar receivers in Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua, who you can expect to keep doing their thing on the outside, especially with Matthew Stafford dealing it out to them. For the Seahawks, Darnold's not going to do this every week. We've seen that he's a much improved quarterback from the years of the Jets. He was great last year until they put some pressure on him. And think about what team in the league puts the most pressure on guys. The really good defensive line of the Los Angeles Rams. It makes a lot of sense why Darnold struggled so much. That's why I said it was such a rough thing for Tyler Shuck to have to face that team in his first ever start. That defensive line is just so good. Jared Verse, of course, being the superstar there. I couldn't imagine if they still had a 31, 32-year-old Aaron Donald. They would be unreal. I wish he hadn't retired because of what he could be on this team, but still so impressive. And if you were the Seahawks, you're going to bounce back probably. You almost, like I said, won a game with 4 interceptions. So got a lot to look forward to in the future. This is two Super Bowl contenders probably out of the NFC. Colin, your thoughts here?
Yeah, I think both of these teams, like you said, are Super Bowl contenders in the NFC. The Seahawks able to do this with 4 interceptions, stay in a game with a really good Rams offense, arguably one of the best offenses in the league. They've got so many weapons on that offense, and then Darnold was just kept throwing interceptions, giving them great field position, and then they were still able to hold them to 21 points. So that is really impressive from the Seahawks. And then I do want to mention I've been begging the Seahawks to give Kenneth Walker the ball. He did get a touchdown. However, I benched him this week, so that's the way it goes in fantasy. Uh,
Yeah.
unfortunate there for me, but and then a really good game on the ground from Kyron Williams. He's been really good this year for the Rams. That's just another piece that they have. They have Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, Kyron Williams. The list just goes on and on for the Rams. So I think a really impressive performance from both teams. I mean, I think if these teams play again in the playoffs, I don't think Sam Darnold throws the 4 interceptions, and I think you could see the Seahawks come away with a victory as long as Darnold does not do what he did this game.
Yeah. And those are the question marks. Can he just figure that out? Which I think he's clearly showed you this season he's got great upside. I mean, he had a game the other day where he had more touchdowns in the first half than incompletions. So having a great year and just had a bad game, and that's what the Rams can do to you. They're coached extremely well, and they have one of the best defensive units out there with a great offense. Rolling into this next one here, Niners taking on the Cardinals in an really impressive debut for Brock Purdy back from the injury. Now, again, not a season debut. He has played, but it's been a minute since we've seen Brock Purdy take the field. He looks healthy. He looks like he's able to go out there and make plays. Throws for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns through the air. So overall, again, good performance. He finds George Kittle. That's pretty simple to do. And you give the ball to Christian McCaffrey and just let him rock and roll. This guy's incredible. He's going to keep doing it until his Achilles tendonitis finally just takes over. Yeah, 13 for 81 is one of his better days on the ground. 2 touchdowns. He hadn't had a really big break-off run because of the Achilles tendonitis, limiting his ability to do that. But just overall, phenomenal performance when your offense can put up 41 points with a guy coming back from an injury and hasn't played in a minute. So, great day from the Niners. On the other side for the Cardinals, Jacoby Brissett throws 57 passes and completes 47 of them. That's extremely impressive. But to add on top of that, he throws 2 interceptions and has a pretty horrible first half, honestly. I mean, I know they scored 10 points in the first half, but it wasn't very pretty, and they did a lot of bad things. Second half, he comes out and starts cooking, and they just can't get in the end zone. They cannot find the end zone. But man, 47 for 57, 452 yards and 2 touchdowns. I'm not going to lie to you and say Jacoby Brissett is a superstar, but Jacoby Brissett might be a starter next year in the NFL. He's had some really good games for the Cardinals as of late. Again, this dude's doing it with what is a bad football team, and they're allowing him just to go out there and throw it a million times. But go look at his stat sheets and see what he's doing. It's kind of impressive, especially with a terrible Cardinals offensive line. A little bit of a hint to what we did in that mock draft. We may have addressed that issue, but they have to fix this problem next year. If you keep Kyler Murray or if you hang on to Jacoby and let him be your quarterback, that offensive line is just getting wrecked. I mean, they have no run game at all. Obviously, part of that has to do with the score of that game. And then you look at their two leading receivers, Michael Wilson, 15 for 185. Is that Jamar Chase? Is that Jamar Chase out there playing? And then Trey McBride goes 10 for 115 and a touchdown. So, really impressive day overall from the Cardinals passing attack. But again, their defense was awful. Their offensive line was pretty bad, and Brissett did not have a good first half, and then had like an all-time second half. So I don't think there's anything to look forward to as a Cardinals fan. You probably want to lose games so you can get a better offensive lineman. But I'm not lying when I say they may have found their quarterback. This guy might start for them going forward, and they might move Kyler Murray because of the value he might have. It's been a rumor. We'll see what happens in the offseason. Colin, your thoughts here.
First off, for the 49ers, really impressive offensively and defensively, honestly, to give up 452 yards passing and only 22 points. That's pretty good. Brock Purdy, I think he kind of, if they were kind of, I don't think they were considering it because of the contract they gave Purdy, but any 49ers fans or fans of the NFL that were thinking maybe Mac Jones could come in and steal the job, it's not going to happen. Brock Purdy looked really, really good there. And then McCaffrey also was able to get it going on the ground. He's been kind of, his yards per carry has been down pretty low this year. I think obviously because of the injury has been affecting that. And then for the Cardinals, you lose the game. I mean, you're 3-7, so it doesn't really matter for the Cardinals at this point. But Jacoby Brissett looked really good, especially in that second half. Was able to hit Michael Wilson 15 times. Like you said, he Jamar chased the 49ers, but it didn't matter because they put up 41 points. And then also, I have Trey McBride in both of my fantasy leagues, and he has been really good since Jacoby Brissett has been the quarterback for the Cardinals. I think he's tight end number one right now. Most of his big games have came since Jacoby Brissett came in for Kyler Murray. He's been able to find him, especially over the middle of the field, I've noticed, and he's also able to find the end zone, a big red zone target for Jacoby Brissett. So, yeah, I'm loving the Trey McBride, Jacoby Brissett connection at the moment.
Yeah. And quickly, I have to add this stat on. The reason I say that he could actually be their quarterback, not even kidding with you, since taking over against Indy on October 12th, he has thrown for more than 250 yards and two touchdowns in every single game. That is, I mean, that's up there with the best quarterbacks in the league, the way he's playing right now. He's only thrown three total interceptions, two of which were in a very bad first half with the Cardinals. Other than that, he almost had no blemishes on his record against the Cardinals. 300 or against the Colts to start it. 320 yards, two touchdowns, one interception. After that, no interceptions and over 250 yards the rest of the way. I don't know, what else to say other than this guy's playing really good football right now, and there has to be real consideration to start him next year because if he can throw the ball around the yard like this and get McBride going, imagine what he can do when Marvin Harrison comes back and he's fully healthy. And imagine what he can do if his offensive line is improved, which it drastically needs upgrades at everywhere but left tackle. So I know there's not a lot to look forward to if you're a Cardinals fan, but man, Jacoby Brissett, he's not too old. He's 32. There's time left. And maybe you can get a decent trade out of Kyler Murray, and I know you probably don't want to give up on him yet, but he hasn't looked all that great, truthfully, over the last few years. So maybe Jacoby Brissett's the guy moving forward. It could be very interesting to see what happens this offseason with the Cardinals. Moving on to this next one here, Ravens taking on the Browns, and what a game. I don't know what else to say. The Ravens win because the Browns are inept on offense. Their team is disgusting to watch play football. They are so bad on the offensive side that Dylan Gabriel was better before he got hurt than the next guy that comes in. We'll talk about in just a second. I don't know what to say about this Browns team. They have a lot of problems. It's not really, I mean, obviously they have a lot of problems. It's the Browns. They've had a lot of problems for a long time. Defensively, Myles Garrett is a freak. He's a monster. He's the best player in football right now. I don't think that's even debatable, to be honest with you. He gets after Lamar. He forces Lamar into probably one of his worst games that he's had, and it didn't matter. The Ravens are still able to get it done. Mark Andrews has a QB sneak that he takes for a 30-yard touchdown because he fakes the sneak and runs to the outside and scores his first rushing touchdown of his career. He is now the all-time leading receiver for the Ravens. He's second in touchdowns for the Ravens. He might go down as the greatest Raven on the offensive side of the ball ever when it comes to just pass catching ability. Derrick Henry does have a really good day, 18 for 103 and a touchdown. But again, the Ravens win this football game because the Browns are so bad on the offensive side. Now I'll speak last but not least about Shedeur Sanders. There is some clear issues, and there is a reason why he fell down in the draft. Did I think he was a fifth-round quarterback? No way in heck. But did I think he was a first-round or a second-round guy? Also, no way in heck. When people said he was going to go top three in the draft, I just said I can't believe that would be the case. If you watch the way he played in Colorado, he would run himself into a lot of sacks. He would hold the ball for way too long. What happened in his first NFL start? He ran himself into a ton of sacks, and he held the ball for way too long. He threw a really bad interception, and he went 4 for 14, I think, passing, or somewhere in that area. It was not good. It was just not good. Now, he made one incredible throw over the middle of the field, and those are the flashes that you see. He's got good arm talent. It's some of the best in that draft class last year. Why was he not starting? I think you see why. They are not ready to start him. I don't think he holds you back from drafting a quarterback in the upcoming draft either, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. Maybe Shedeur Sanders just a career backup in the league, and I think that was some of the concerns with teams and to why they didn't pick him. But I won't shut it all down on him right now. He didn't really have much of a chance. The Browns aren't very good offensively. They don't have the best offensive line, and the Ravens were getting after him and sending pressure, and that's just something he can't handle right now in the NFL. We'll see what happens. We'll see if he develops going forward, but so far, Dylan Gabriel has looked like the better quarterback, and that's kind of crazy because Dylan Gabriel hasn't looked all that good. Colin, your thoughts there?
Yeah, like you said, Shadur, he looked really bad. He was 25% completion percentage, which is not good at all, and he was taking a lot of sacks. He did not look ready, which to be fair, he was probably not getting any first team snaps this week. So maybe give him a full week of preparation. He looks a little bit better, but I don't know how you recover from that performance, honestly. But it'll be interesting to see if he is the starter this week, how he does play. So that'll be something to watch if you're a Browns fan. You're probably not going to be watching them win because the Browns' offense is just so bad. It's honestly unfortunate because they really had a chance to beat the Ravens here, and I would have loved that.
Yeah.
The Ravens are breathing down the Steelers' necks at the moment. The Ravens did have a really interesting play there with the fake tush push, and Mark Andrews kind of ran it around the edge. It ended up being a touchdown. So that was a really interesting play there from the Ravens. Everyone's kind of crowded in there trying to stop the tush push, and then he breaks it around the edge and scores. And then I do want to give Myles Garrett credit. He is on pace to beat TJ Watt and Michael Strahan's sack record at the moment. We have seen in previous years he does kind of slow down towards the end of the year. So hopefully that happens because I don't want to see him break TJ's record. It
Yeah.
doesn't really count if he's playing for the Browns that are probably going to finish 2-15.
Yeah.
But Derrick Henry, he's got going again for the Ravens, so that's good for them. And then Lamar, he didn't have his best game, but like you said, Myles Garrett had 4 sacks, so you really can't do too much. I think that game kind of showed why he gets paid the big bucks because he
Oh, yeah.
kind of single-handedly shut down this Ravens offense. It really, just really impressive from him. And it's unfortunate that he plays for the Browns that just have no offense whatsoever because they, like I said, easily could have beat the Ravens this week.
Yeah. I truthfully, in my mind, I don't even know what to compare this to because he would literally, on most teams, I'm talking Titans, Saints, Browns, I don't know who else. Most teams, he could probably carry the team to a playoff if they just had a competent quarterback. Like, put Myles Garrett on the Cardinals with Jacoby Brissett the way he's playing right now. They're 3-7. They're probably 6-5 or 6-4. I mean that's just how good he is everywhere else. He just cannot win them the games because his offense can't do anything at all. And the play that they give up, it's the Mark Andrews tush push that, like you said, is the sneak around the edge for 30 yards. He was on the other side of the field and he blew the play up because if it was a tush push, he'd have been back there stopping it. But they were smart enough to know we're not getting this against this defensive line, which also has Mason Graham from last year's draft. It's pretty good, actually, a good defensive line. And he goes around the edge and scores the touchdown. It also shows you what kind of speed Mark Andrews still has at his age. I don't know what to say, man. I feel really bad for Myles Garrett because of the situation, but I can't feel too bad for him because he got 40 million a year. So
He
he's
signed the contract. He knew what
yeah,
he was signing up for.
yeah, exactly. He signed into this deal, and unfortunately, he's got to deal with it. Unless this offseason somebody can pony up the unbelievable amount of cap space, the Titans are going to have 100 million. If they can pony up some unbelievable number in cap space, you're not getting this guy out of there because of the contract. So, and also, I don't know what you trade. Do you trade like two whole entire drafts to get this guy? I don't know what you trade to get him. You'd have to give up so much value to get him back that I think it would make those teams worse in the whole scheme of things just over the future. Now, again, in a 1 year span, he's probably going to make them better because he's the best player in football. Unbelievable performance overall for Myles Garrett, and the Ravens are catching up to the Steelers. I think the Steelers, obviously still have those two matchups. So it'll be very important that they win those down the stretch. Moving on to our next one here, Chiefs taking on the Broncos, and Hoppy was on the mock draft with us talking about the Broncos and how he thinks they're one of the best teams. I won't lie to you, this game kind of proved that they're one of the best teams. To be able to do this without Patrick Surtain playing is extremely impressive. You held the Chiefs to a total of 19 points without your best football player. That is incredibly impressive. This team has been playing some pretty good football once they got fully healthy, got Rashi Rice back, and got a lot of their pieces back, and they get an impressive win. The Chiefs look pretty human this year. I thought they honestly were going to get better. they have looked human. They've looked very beatable. Patrick Mahomes is still having a pretty good season. Travis Kelce is actually having a resurgent season. Goes 9 for 91 and a touchdown in this one. Plays some of his best football he's played in the last few years. But they are very beatable. Their defense is not as good as it has been. And I think that might be the rumor why Steve Spagnuolo might head out the doors because he just doesn't have the pieces there anymore. Part of that is the contracts. They're paying Mahomes as much money as they are paying him. Travis Kelce makes over 30 as a tight end. They're now paying some of their offensive linemen up there at the top of the list of money. Chris Jones is making 35, and you remember that play earlier in the year where he stood completely still on a play that probably would have won them a football game. There's question marks here. They just lost Mike Borgonzi, not to hype up the Titans, but that was the dude who built that football team. He drafted a lot of those players, and there's some chance that they're not as good this year as they have been for the last 4 years, which I mean that seems like it's going to happen at some point, but it's just hard to imagine it with the core still together. Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, Chris Jones on the defensive side of the ball. You look at this game, Bo Nix, he played really good. This is one of his better games he's had over the last few games. He did not play good at all against the Jets, but he goes for 295 yards against the Chiefs, and they're able to get the ball out to a couple different guys. Again, he doesn't have the greatest receiving core. Cortland Sutton is incredible, but behind that, he's kind of relying on an old college teammate in Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims to make some plays, R.J. Harvey potentially out of the backfield. No J.K. Dobbins. That's going to be a thing that hurts them a lot. Probably going to be done for the season. He had a couple 100-yard games. Was the first one under Peyton in a long time to rush for 100 yards. So they probably would love to have him back. Again, I think the Broncos, they look like an NFL team that can win a Super Bowl. They look like they are at the top of the list, and they have a phenomenal head coach. I love Sean Payton. I think he's one of the best in the sport. They have a quarterback who is definitely good enough to get them there, and they have a defense that's probably the best in football, especially when Pat Surtain is available to play. If you look at the Chiefs, last but not least, that issue that they had at the running back position, Kareem Hunt played pretty good, 13 for 59 and a touchdown, but that's not good enough to be your lead running back on a Super Bowl team. They, without the other pieces around him in the running game, Pacheco is just basically useless at this point. I think they should have went and got a running back. I really do. I think they should have went and done that at the deadline. There was available running backs, and they weren't willing to pony up and offer what those teams wanted. So, are the Chiefs human? Possibly. They've won most of their games at home, and you don't get to play every game at home in the playoffs unless you're a top seed, and they're not looking like they're going to be. So, the Mile High Effect got after them. I did pick this game, and I'm pretty happy I did. I didn't expect it, to be honest. Just don't like the Chiefs, so I went with the Broncos, and they got it done. Colin, your thoughts here?
Yeah, the Chiefs really, I mean, I think I've picked them every single game on the podcast this year, but that's only got me a 50% win percentage at the moment. They really have came back down to earth after how good they have been the past, I don't know, 7 years or however, since Mahomes has been their quarterback.
Yeah.
Uh, this year they're starting to look human, but I mean, it's really just I don't know. It's kind of mind-boggling because they get Rashee Rice back. He's been good. Travis Kelce, like you said, he's been having a resurgence in his career, and then they're 5-5. I mean, it's not like the defense has been terrible either. They haven't been as good as they have been in the past, but they still have some good pieces there. They are getting a little bit older, but I don't know, kind of a disappointing season for the Chiefs. I'm not complaining by any means.
Yeah.
But then for the Broncos, up to this point, they beat the Eagles, and then they kind of like they beat the Giants in like I don't want to say a fluky way
The
because
craziest comeback ever. I
it's
mean,
a win in the NFL, and a win's a win. But up to this point, they really hadn't. I said they beat the Eagles, so that's a good win. But that was their only good win really up to this point. And I mean, they can only play the schedule that they're given, so it's no fault to them. But this win, I think, really cements them as a Super Bowl contenders this year. I will, if you do watch the mock draft, Hoppy is a big Broncos fan. I will say I agree with him on one thing. He might say Bo Nix is better than Drake May, which I strongly disagree with, but he definitely does have a clutch gene. That is one
yeah.
thing that Bo Nix does have. So he's been able to win all these close games, and I think that'll be huge for the Broncos in the playoffs because they've almost every single game they've played this year has been super close, and once you get to the playoffs, it's anything can happen. So I think that'll be very beneficial to the Broncos being in all these close games once playoff time comes around because they're definitely going to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, and you look at it, I mean, really, it's not even a joke. Go look at the box scores in the fourth quarter. They find something. And not this week, it wasn't a crazy drastic difference, but they still score the most points they score in the entire game in the fourth quarter. Against the Giants, they did everything in the fourth quarter. Against the Eagles, a complete comeback in the fourth quarter. Every week they find something, and like you said, it's Bo Nix does actually have a clutch gene. He's able to lead drives at the end of games. I still think I'm taking Baker Mayfield at the top of that list, and I would have definitely taken Patrick Mahomes before the season started, but Bo Nix is in that conversation with guys that at the end of the game you can trust him because he doesn't turn the ball over. He doesn't make stupid mistakes, and defenses do play lax and drop back in coverage because for some reason they do that. It happens every week. And for some reason that allows these teams to get up and down the field a little bit better, and that's what quarterbacks are able to do, and he's a really good quarterback at taking advantage of that. He's not having a Drake May type season. Hoppy loves him, but it's not close, particularly close. But he is a good quarterback, and he can definitely lead this team to a Super Bowl run, especially with that defense when healthy. Moving on to this next one, I don't know what happened to the Lions during this week. This is an embarrassing performance on the offensive side of the ball. Your quarterback goes 14 for 37. That is probably one of Jared Goff's worst performances this season. You just couldn't complete passes. And Jahmyr Gibbs was your lead receiver with over 107 yards on 5 catches. That is really impressive from Jahmyr Gibbs. But they had no ground game at all. And that's probably because of this Eagles defensive line. It's the two interior guys are some of the best in football. That grouping is really, really hard to run the ball on. Overall, Jared Goff obviously brings you no upside when it comes to rushing. Big story here, he's sacked a couple times and he throws an interception. So just not a great performance from Jared Goff. And if you play like this against the Eagles of all teams, you're not going to beat them. They are good enough to win any game that's close like this and the quarterback's just not playing well. On the other side, for the Eagles, Jalen Hurts has another Jalen Hurts passing stat line with 135 total yards and no touchdowns, no interceptions. That's just kind of the player he is. But on the ground, Barkley gets going. Hurts does some work there as well, finds the end zone. And overall on the day, A.J. Brown is the lead receiver. So I guess he can be happy about that being the lead guy for the first time in a long time. They get it done. They get a really impressive win on the backs of their really, really impressive defense and Saquon and that rushing attack overall. A lot of that, due to that really, really good offensive line. They're really good. The Eagles are a good football team. They win in close games, like we were talking about with the Broncos. They win close games. The Eagles have been able to do that a lot this year and get an impressive victory over the Lions. Colin, your thoughts here?
Yeah, just really surprising from the Lions how bad the offense was this game. And they've had a few games like that this year where the offense just has done nothing for them. You didn't see that as much last year, and I think a lot of that has to do with Ben Johnson being gone from the Lions because you still have the same, it's pretty much the same offense. You're not really missing anybody from last year's team, but the offense just hasn't been as consistent this year as it was last year. You see, Amon-Ra St. Brown only has 2 catches for 40 some yards, which is, I mean, he's a really, really good wide receiver. They kind of shut him down. I think one thing for the Lions, they did have Sam Laporta was injured this game. So I think that might, I don't know if him coming back automatically makes your offense that much better to put up more than 9. Well, I think they probably most weeks they're going to put up more than 9 points. But I'm not sure Sam Laporta just fixes everything. But that is a big injury. We've kind of saw the tight end going down. Tucker Kraft has really hurt the Packers, and I think that was a factor in this game. But Jared Goff, he looked bad. Yeah, 14 for 37. He was not very efficient at all. So just really bad offense from the Lions. The defense didn't play too bad. The Eagles' offense hasn't looked great itself, but they were able to do enough on the backs of that really impressive defensive performance to do enough to win. And I mean, that's all you got to do is just win. And they've just kept doing that game in and game out. They've had a lot of close games, but they've just been able to do enough to win 8 times out of 10. So good for the Eagles there.
Yeah, yeah, impressive, and they do look like a favorite to potentially make a Super Bowl run yet again, due to just that strong offensive line, that great defense that they have. Moving on to Monday Night Football, one we were able to watch, and honestly, if you watch the Cowboys, really fun to watch them play offense. They are so impressive on the offensive side of the ball. Dak Prescott is having an MVP type of season. It's just his team is so bad, he's not in the conversation. They have some really, really fun performances to look at. George Pickens. Holy crap, dude. This dude's a superstar. Unfortunately, the Steelers dealt him off. 9 for 144 and a touchdown. He is plenty happy in the offense as well. You see no complaining on the sidelines from the situation he's been dealt, and part of that is CeeDee Lamb got hurt, so he got to be the superstar. He got to be the guy everybody looked at for 4 weeks, and I think that was fine with him. He was like, perfect. That's all I needed. I needed to let my ego out a little bit, and now I'm good to sit here and just be the guy that they're covering with second corners. And they're going to keep doing it because you know how good CeeDee Lamb is. You put the second corner on him, see what happens. So they have to. And this passing attack is deadly. I mean, it is so good. They have Jake Ferguson, who's a really good tight end. They have probably two of the top 10, 15 receivers in the league right now, the way they're playing. I mean, the way Pickens is playing, he's a top 10, top 15 guy. And you know CeeDee Lamb is. When he's healthy, unbelievable player. On top of that, they fixed the running back issue that they've had. You know, last year it wasn't that big a deal. Rico was pretty good, but with Zeke at the end of his career, it was just awful. Javonte Williams is great. Javonte Williams brings them nearly 100 yards yet again. He catches passes out of the backfield. And overall, man, what a day from this Cowboys offense. Dak goes for nearly 270 yards and 4 touchdowns, has a great completion percentage. All the positives there for the Cowboys. And then you top that off with the defense looked good. Now, again, they're playing the Raiders, and the Raiders aren't very good. But they have some superstars. The Raiders have Ashton Jeanty. The Raiders have Brock Bowers. They have Geno Smith, who can throw for a lot of yards. He loves to turn the ball over, but he can throw for a lot of yards. They are able to hold that offense to 16 total points, and one of those touchdowns come in garbage time. They hold the rushing attack. This is probably the most impressive part to 27 total yards, averaging 2 yards per carry, with a long rush of 11. And they held Jeanty to 1.2 yards per carry. That's how good this defensive line is right now. Quentin Williams made a ton of difference. Logan Wilson starts immediately for the Cowboys. Are the Bengals idiots? Yes, they are. I'll answer that question for myself. Their defense, whoever the defensive coordinator is a moron. Logan Wilson's clearly a starting level linebacker, especially on that team of all teams. And so the Cowboys, their trades at the deadline look like great moves. These kids, the guys that stepped in for them have played very, very well. Logan Wilson, Quentin Williams, starring on the defense. For the Vegas Raiders, like I said, no run game at all. Geno Smith doesn't have a bad game, but it's not good by any means. Sacked 4 times at an interception. Does throw a touchdown, and Brock Bowers is Brock Bowers. 7 for 72. Somehow they untapped Tyler Lockett as well. Tyler Lockett did absolutely nothing for the Titans, and he's now come over here and had over 100 yards in the first 2 games. So, woo! Go Titans, I guess. We don't know how to scheme up anything that even old man Pete Carroll has Tyler Lockett playing better football. That's all I have to say. Cowboys' impressive victory. Don't think they're going to make a playoff run, but who knows, man? If that defense is really that improved, they might have a chance with this high level offense. Calling your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, George Pickens has been incredible this year. You kind of saw his potential in Pittsburgh, but they just have not had good quarterback play like he's getting from Dak Prescott. I mean, he went from, I think, Mason Rudolph, Mitch Trubisky, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. It just has not been good. Kenny Pickett, yeah. So he's finally got a good quarterback, and I think you're seeing what he can be. Just really unfortunate Pittsburgh could only get like a third round pick for him. I mean, he's a top 10 receiver in the NFL right now, and that's all you could get for him. I'm fine with us trading him, but you get a third round pick from him is all. I think they definitely could have done more there. And then also for the Cowboys, you mentioned Quentin Williams. He gets a sack and a half and is automatically making a big difference. He shuts down Genty in the run game. So really impressive from the Cowboys. They looked much better this week. I think if they can continue doing this, they could possibly make a push for the playoffs, but they're going to have to play really well with the 4-5 record, really not doing them any favors. And then for the Raiders, I mean, just this season has just been so disappointing. You signed Geno Smith hoping to make a push for the playoffs, and it just hasn't happened. Genty hasn't looked very good at all. I think a lot of that has to do with how bad the offensive line is. But it just I don't know. It's unfortunate, really, that the Raiders make all these moves trying to make a playoff push, and then they're 2-8 now. So I guess one thing to look forward to is you'll get a good draft pick again. So maybe they can build up that offensive line or something. They definitely need something there in Las Vegas.
Yeah, and if you wanted to send us Brock Bowers, we'll give you the first overall pick. That would be, I think it'd be pretty fair. The Raiders definitely need to address the quarterback position. That's the first start, and the offensive line has to be fixed as well. Who knows what they're going to do in the offseason? They have a lot of young players on rookie contracts, which helps a ton for the ability to build an offense and make it better. But Pete Carroll's going to be here for maybe 2 more years at max. So if you want to try to win with him as your head coach, it's got to be soon. And they are certainly not in a position to do so with Geno Smith. Last but not least, it seems like that's the direction they're going as a new quarterback. Geno Smith himself liked an Instagram post that said, "It's ready to move on from Geno Smith. I think he's done after this season." He liked that. And it's public. You can see that he liked it. So I think Geno Smith knows he's also done as a Las Vegas Raider. That is all for our recap. We will move on over into our picks for the week. Obviously, we'll start it off with some Thursday night football on Prime. Buffalo Bills taking on the Houston Texans in NRG Stadium in Houston, Texas. The Bills are going to be pretty big favorites here because Davis Mills is slotted to be the starter yet again for the Houston Texans. If that's the case and we don't get a CJ Stroud back, I don't think they have much of a chance. Buffalo has looked pretty good in the last few weeks. Josh Allen is playing MVP level football, and I think Houston has a really good defense, and they can maybe get after him a few times, but they're not stopping Buffalo. They're not going to end up getting enough stops, anyways, to win this one. So give me the Bills on the road.
Yeah, I like the Bills here as well. Josh Allen's coming off a 5 touchdown performance, and Houston has Davis Mills, so I like Buffalo.
Yeah, and moving on to our Sunday day slate here, we're starting it off with your boys on the board. Pittsburgh having to travel to Chicago, which is going to end up being a pretty tough game. You see those ticket prices. Soldier Field is a great environment in the NFL, and I've picked your Steelers a lot this year. For some reason, I'm going to stick with them. I think that there's probably going to be some great defensive performances. You saw the ability to stop the Bears. There's stuff there to counter that team. The way the Steelers have been playing on the defensive side of the ball has been really impressive. But most importantly, they found something on offense. And although Aaron Rodgers is not going to be available to go in this one, you know Mason Rudolph can win you football games. He's done it in a Pittsburgh uniform. Didn't do it in a Titans uniform at all. But in a Pittsburgh uniform, he's been able to win football games. He loves the system that he's in. Pittsburgh has superstar players on the defense, and it doesn't really matter how old TJ Watt is. He can make a difference in a football game. So give me the Steelers to get a upset victory in Chicago.
Yeah, I'm probably a little biased, but I'm gonna go with Pittsburgh here as well. I really like the way that the defense has looked. I kind of joked about it when they initially picked up Kyle Duggar, but he has played very, very good since he's got to Pittsburgh. He had a pick six last week, and he's just been making a ton of tackles. Honestly, him and Ramsey at safety, the defense looks completely different. So I really like how that's been going for him, and I like him to kind of not shut down Ben Johnson in Chicago, but I think they can definitely limit what they can do on offense. And I'm fine with Mason at quarterback. Like you said, he went 9-8, I think, as a starter, or maybe that was the year they went 8-1. But any 500 or above. So yeah, I like Pittsburgh here.
Yeah, and I will quickly add on top of that, Pittsburgh is an interesting football team no matter the situation. But I also want to say I did call Kyle Duggar probably was going to be a nice addition, that he
I
had some
did.
pretty awesome games with the Patriots prior to him being traded. And the way that they've untapped that potential just shows you what Pittsburgh can do on defense. They've done it for years with many different players come in there and have a lot of success. Moving on to this next one. This is the easiest and the quickest pick I'll make probably all season. New England has a super high powered offense, and the Bengals can't stop anybody. Give me the Patriots and the points.
Yep, I like the Patriots here as well. Like you said, New England's offense is very, very good, and Cincinnati's defense ranks 32nd in just about everything. So I like the Patriots here as well.
They also will not have Jamar Chase. That is
That is
another
true.
big piece that will be missing. You don't have much of a chance. You definitely don't have a chance without the All Pro receiver. Moving on to this next one, New York taking on Detroit. And maybe the Eagles showed you how to beat the Detroit Lions with a really strong pass rush, disrupting Jared Goff, making him look like he's human and not this, robot where he's just completion, 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 no turnovers. That's just kind of the guy he's been there. It doesn't matter to me. The New York Giants are going to be starting Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston's not beating the Detroit Lions. They've had a pretty good defense this year overall, and their offense is not going to do what they did last week again. So give me the Lions to get a victory here at Ford Field.
Yeah, I like the Lions here as well. Honestly, I think that the Giants can keep it within the 10.5 point spread because it seems like most of their games have been close and they have outgained them in nearly every statistic on offense. And I'm not sure they'll do that this week against Detroit, but I think they can keep it kind of close with them. But I do like Detroit to win here.
Yep, and moving on to this next one here. Taking place at Lambeau Field gives me a lot of faith in the Green Bay Packers. Although they're probably going to be missing Josh Jacobs and Tucker Kraft, of course, being done for the season, Minnesota's starting J.J. McCarthy, and he is going into one of the toughest environments in all of the NFL. I love the Green Bay Packers to get a victory here.
Yeah, I like Green Bay here as well. Honestly, JJ McCarthy, I don't know that he's looked any better than Carson Wentz. They may be worse, but obviously you're going to start your young quarterback. But I like Green Bay here just because of the fact of how bad McCarthy has been so far. I would like to see him improve. I like McCarthy, but I would like to see him do well. But I like Green Bay here.
Yep, and moving on to this next one, I said that the earlier pick was the easiest one. I take that back. This is the easiest one. Tennessee, again, we're horrible. We're not a good football team at all. Seattle, they're coming off of what was Sam Darnold's worst performance all season. He's going to be out for revenge, and he's playing a practice squad dummy at corner on all three receivers. We're not stopping JSN. He could go for 300 yards. Give me the Seattle Seahawks. And I don't think, I mean, they probably might cover the spread, to be honest with you. 14 is crazy in an NFL game. But like I said, the Titans literally have practice squad corners playing. How do you stop them? And I will say, I want us to lose the rest of the games, get the first overall pick, gives us a better chance to build for the future. Just need to see some positives from Cam Ward. Won't be easy to do when he's throwing it to Van Jefferson a lot. But that's it. That's all I have to say about the Titans. We're bad, and the Seattle Seahawks are really good. Your thoughts here?
Yeah, I think that the last sentence you said, the Titans are not good. The Seahawks are good. I like Seattle here.
Yeah, it's going to be bad. Moving on to this next one, probably the closest one we've picked on the schedule, maybe that or Pittsburgh and Chicago. Colts traveling into Kansas City. Big news is they have a bye week. They got to rest. They got to prepare for the Chiefs. And Jonathan Taylor is a workhorse. He has been pretty much impossible to stop all season. And the Kansas City Chiefs, they just got beat by the Broncos, and their defense had their best player missing. You're playing the Colts, and their best player just ran for 244 yards before the bye week. Give me the Colts to go into Arrowhead and upset the Chiefs, which, again, at this point, it sounds crazy. If I said this last year, you would think I was an idiot. But the Colts have played better football than the Chiefs this year, which is absurd to say. Jonathan Taylor is the best player on the field when he steps on the field, unless he's playing the Browns. So give me the Colts to get a victory in Arrowhead.
I know I've picked the Chiefs every single game, and I'm just gonna keep doing it. I know there's some crazy statistics about Patrick Mahomes coming off of a loss. I think he's like almost undefeated. So I do like the Chiefs here. I think it'll be a very, very good game, but I like that it is at Arrowhead. I think that gives the Chiefs a big advantage here. So I'm gonna go with the Chiefs again.
Yeah, and I will say, I hate the Chiefs. I've voiced that. I hate the Colts more. So for me to pick the Colts, I've literally just got to think that Jonathan Taylor's going to go off, and I think he will. Moving on to this next one. This will be a relatively quick pick as well. The Jets, they're starting Tyrod Taylor. Love him. I hope he goes off. I hope he throws for 400 yards and beats the Ravens because I don't like the Ratbirds as much as you don't like the Ratbirds. But Baltimore has Derrick Henry going. They have Lamar Jackson healthy. That defense has gotten back to the status of pretty much the level they were supposed to be this year. And Mark Andrews, the last four games has looked like Mark Andrews. That team is going to beat the Jets and probably beat them by a lot. Give me Baltimore.
Yeah, unfortunately, Baltimore will probably get another win here, and Pittsburgh has got to go to Chicago. So, Baltimore is getting the easy part of their schedule now, and Pittsburgh's starting to hit the hard part of their schedule, and they're right nipping at the Steelers' heels. So that is unfortunate for Pittsburgh, but I like Baltimore here.
Yeah, and you've got to think those matchups between the two teams is going to be probably what
Yeah.
decides who makes the playoffs out of that division, or they might both make it, but it seems like it's going to be difficult if you don't win the division. Moving on to this next one here, Cleveland taking on Vegas, and this one is a hard one to pick because this is two really bad teams that they both suck at one side of the ball. The Raiders don't have an awesome offense, but they have a lot of good players. Their defense, however, is pretty horrible. The Cleveland Browns, who knows who's playing quarterback? But their defense is amazing. I just said earlier that Myles Garrett probably can't beat many teams by himself. He can beat the Raiders by himself, especially if he gets after Geno the way that other teams have been able to do it. He might have another 3 or 4 sack game. Give me the Cleveland Browns to go into Las Vegas and get a victory over the Raiders.
First off, I want to say who is spending $104 to go to this game? That's insane. Neither one of these teams are fun to watch. Uh, but I do like I like the Raiders here. I think they just have a better offense. I just don't think Cleveland's offense can do too much. Not that the Raiders' defense is very good, but Cleveland's offense is just like one of the worst I've ever seen in the NFL. I like the Raiders here. I think their offense can do just enough to win them the game here.
I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna say special teams and Myles Garrett doing something insane is gonna win the game.
Yeah, possibly.
Probably
It's
gonna
going
be
to
a
have to come
weird.
from the defense or special teams for sure.
Yeah, yeah, it's not going to be that offense. Moving on to this next one, Jacksonville taking on Arizona in Glendale in State Farm Stadium, and you see a relatively close spread here. Although the Jacksonville Jaguars just played some of the best football they've played all year. I will say the statistics I read to you earlier about the way Jacoby Brissett is playing right now, I think it gives the Arizona Cardinals a chance in any game, but their defense is horrible. It's not played good football at all. In those stretch of games where Jacoby Brissett has played awesome, they've won like one of them. So I cannot pick them to beat a team that just destroyed the Chargers, who I think are a pretty good football team. So give me the Jags to go on the road and beat the Cardinals.
Yeah, I would I'm kind of debating picking the Cardinals here, but I just can't because of that victory that Jacksonville's coming off of. Definitely think Jacoby Brissett can keep them in this game because I don't think Jacksonville is near as good as the 49ers. But Jacksonville just beat up on the Chargers and Arizona just come off a really big loss. I think Jacoby Brissett will probably throw for a lot of yards again and have a really good game, but I like Jacksonville to win.
Yeah, and this next one, it could actually be a pretty fun matchup. If we see that defense play the way they played last week for Dallas, they've got a chance. Philadelphia is not an extremely high scoring offense. They haven't scored a ton of points this year. Problem is, that defense is really good, and it's probably one of the best defenses to try to go out and stop Dallas. The way Dallas is playing is extremely impressive, but I'm just hard pressed to pick against the Eagles because they win all these close football games. They just absolutely shut down probably one of the best offenses in the league, and now they're playing another one of them. What says they can't go out and do that as well? Now, do they have the guys to stop both CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens? I don't think so, but they have the defensive line to get after Dak Prescott and not let him sit back there and just pick them apart. So give me the Eagles, but I think this will be a really close one because of how good Dallas's offense is.
Like you said, I think this will be a very close game, but I'm going to go with Dallas here. I think that offense, they showed how good they can be last week and pretty much all season they've been really good. It's just been the defense and it kind of looked like the defense was starting to come around last week. And I mean the Eagles offense has not looked very good this year. Obviously they can be. They have the pieces if they could just put it together. But Dallas's defense looked pretty good last week. The offense has looked good all year. And then the only thing that concerns me is Philadelphia's defense. That has been very, very good. But I'm gonna go with the upset here with the Cowboys getting a big win over Philadelphia and possibly making a push for the playoffs.
Yeah, and that should be a really fun one. I think Dallas being fueled by needing to win football games could definitely help them there. Atlanta taking on New Orleans in the Caesar Superdome, and New Orleans Saints are the favorites. That's probably the first time all season that they've been the favorite in a football game. If not, it's definitely the first or second time that they've done it. Give me the New Orleans Saints. I'm going to side with Tyler Shuck. The way he played last game was really impressive to me. The Falcons, I've got the read on them. They aren't good. And I don't think the Saints are good either. But Tyler Shuck played some really awesome football. I think he's going to outplay Kirk Cousins. I think he's going to outplay the Falcons. So give me the Saints. And I would never have said that 3 weeks ago.
I'm gonna have to go with Atlanta here. I just know how bad New Orleans can be, and the Falcons have pieces. They've got Bijan. Kirk
Yeah.
Cousins is a very serviceable backup quarterback. I mean, he's getting paid a bunch of money for
Yeah.
for a reason. He has been good in his career, and I think he still can be not as good as he was in his prime, but I think he still has flashes there. I like the Falcons here.
Yeah, and I will say that's a pretty crazy spread for the Saints to be favored by anything against anybody.
Yeah.
Is pretty wild. Moving on to this next one here, Tampa Bay taking on LA at LA. Now again, the Rams get more fans than the Chargers, but it's not still not great. They are a much better football team. They do have a Hall of Famer playing quarterback, and they did just win a Super Bowl, so they do get some support from the fan base. Overall, I think this will be a really fun football game. I think Tampa Bay may have found some pieces that even if they're not fully healthy, they can compete. But just LA, man, Stafford is playing MVP level good, and that defense, that pass rush is impressive. So give me LA with all their super good offensive pieces and that incredible pass rush to get a victory here in SoFi Stadium.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. I think that Baker and the Buccaneers are going to cover the spread here, but I think LA has looked like one of the best teams in football this year, and I think that can take advantage of the Tampa Bay's injuries, and I think they're going to get a win here.
And man, they are so scary when they are healthy. I mean, they didn't have Puka for part of the season and they're still 8-2. Moving on to Monday Night Football, San Francisco is drawing a red hot Carolina Panthers after throwing for 400 and whatever many yards last week from Bryce Young. Can he continue that performance against Kyle Shanahan? I'm going to say no. I think that he's going to be game planned. He's going to go back and watch tape. He's going to find a way to shut down Tetaroa McMillan and know that that's pretty much the entire offense. It's just Bryce Young dealing it out to Tetaroa. 2 touchdowns last week. That performance was awesome. I think San Francisco's got so many good players that they're now getting healthy as well. George Kittle has come back and looked great. McCaffrey's looked pretty good as of late. Brock Purdy is healthy and available to go. I think there's just too many good players on the San Francisco 49ers team for them to drop this one. However, Carolina does have a chance because of those injuries to Fred Warner and Nick Bosa. The big pieces that would be getting after Bryce Young and trying to rattle him a little bit, they're not available. They're not ready to go. So the Panthers could hang around, but I think the Niners are overall a better football team.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one as well. I think the 49ers just have too many good pieces. I don't think Carolina's a bad football team, but I think their record is better than what they truly are. I think they did have a good week last week, but so did San Francisco. Brock Purdy looked really, really good coming back, so I like San Francisco to get a win here.
Thank you guys so much for joining us this week. We had a really fun week of recaps, reviewing the games that were played, and also making those picks. Of course, like I said many times throughout the video, go check out the mock draft that's already on the channel. We talk about where a lot of these teams were picking after this week of games and what the future could look like for those teams. Had some really fun picks at the top of the draft. Of course, I changed it up a little bit, the first overall pick, if you watch the first one. So you do need to check it out. There's a little bit of differences across the board, especially because these teams are constantly moving up and down the board because the season is still going on. Colin, if you have anything else you want to add, do so now.
Yeah, hopefully Pittsburgh is able to go in, get a big win over Chicago. I think that would be huge for them, especially with how them and the Ravens are in the division right now. The Ravens started the year off really bad. We thought that the odds makers were absolutely crazy for putting them as like still favorites to win the division when they were sitting at 1-5 or whatever they were. But now I guess we see why, as Pittsburgh has kind of slowed down a little bit as they've gotten to a tougher part of their schedule, and the Ravens are getting to an easier part of their schedule and getting back healthy. And now it's a really close division. I think it'll be a fun division to watch going down to the end of the year, and some fun games to watch there between the Steelers and Ravens. And yeah, go Steelers.
Yeah, and that's obviously what we want to see happen. I'm pulling for you. I'm pulling for the Steelers with you. I've obviously been with you to the stadium. Now you did have to beat my Titans that game, but that's all right. Big Ben had three QB sneaks, so that was a fun time period of watching Steelers football. Obviously, I'll quickly add on to the end a little bit of a fun conversation to have. Me and you both, of course, covered some college football last week. I'll quickly give you a segment to talk about it as well, but the Hokies just made one of the best moves that they've probably made ever in program history, not just football, but in sports in general. They hired James Franklin, who is probably the best recruiter in the country in the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia. And he recruits the area so well that it just makes sense that he can bring guys with him over to the Hokies. They have pretty much, within a day of hiring him, had a four-star quarterback from California, Cristobal, projected to come to the Hokies, number 15 guy in the class. That does not happen in maybe even in the Frank Beamer era. So you know how good of a recruiter that Franklin is, of course, as a coach, as a program builder. All those things sound so good, and I'm hoping that is what corrects Virginia Tech football. Quickly, Colin, I'll let you talk about that for just a second, and we'll wrap this thing up.
Yeah, I think it's a great hire. I mean, the past however long he's been at Penn State, it has absolutely fired me up that Penn State has stole all of Virginia's best players. I mean, whenever Virginia Tech's at their best, we've said they're recruiting that DMV area really well, Virginia Beach. That's where like Michael Vick and all those guys came from. And that's where when they're best is when they're getting those guys. So I think if they're able to get those guys back again, because Virginia is a really good football state for recruiting. Some of the best players in the class in most classes come from Virginia. I think it's a great hire for Virginia Tech, and I look forward to watching them in the upcoming years.
Yeah, and when have we said that? In the last 10 years,
Yeah.
probably. So, yeah, should be a lot of fun. Sucks that it's my final year as a student here. I won't get to witness the James Franklin era, but I still will obviously be watching games and probably coming to quite a few of them, especially if I remain in the area and able to watch them. That'll do it for some college football rambling there at the end. I haven't talked to any James Franklin on the podcast yet because I haven't done my college football video, so I figured I'd go ahead and throw that in there at the end of this. As everybody knows, we're both Tech fans. We talked about it when we did the college football video. Again, if you guys haven't checked that out, college football is constantly going to be on this channel. It's what started the channel, and it carries over in our mock drafts as well, talking about players that I'm watching all year. That's why I have a lot of in-depth analysis of those guys. It's just you get to see them a lot, you learn a lot about them, and that's a really fun process just as the season goes on. We'll finish things up here. Come back next Wednesday. We're going to have weekly talk about the NFL all the way throughout the season and definitely into the playoffs. That's the best time of year to talk about it. Should be really fun covering a lot of those games. Look out for more mock draft content in the future. And man, when we get to that off season, we'll be pumping out mock drafts consistently because that was what rolled on the channel last year, and I have a lot of fun doing those. We should maybe look at doing something interesting with a potential trade mock coming up because I think that's what the Titans should do at the top of the board. That'll be all for us this week. Like, subscribe, comment if you haven't already, and we'll see you guys next week. Peace.
Peace.